Let's get started with the week's biggest new release that we have seen, and that is something we saw a couple of weeks ago at the Metro Centre for the Odeon Screen Unseen. It is, of course, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl.
So, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, that was the film for Odeon Screen Unseen last week.
It was the film.
After much deliberation and the fact that we'd already decided upon the fact that it was Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. Just a bit disappointing that it wasn't something. I mean, we were expecting like maybe it's going to be something else, but no, this is the one, probably the first one that we've guessed was going to be that. No disappointment though, because it's great, so there's a bit of a spoiler alert, but it is no disappointment from our end, even though 3 or 4 people did walk out, which has happened to every single Odeon Screen Unseen that we've been to.
Less than usual. And it wasn't the sort of flurry through the film as it has been in the past. It's kind of, they decided straight away they weren't going to like it, so off they went.
Yeah. Just to get them out before.
Yeah.
But there was the usual complaining afterwards, just some people just can never be satisfied.
I did see a tweet this morning saying that they walked out in the first half hour calling it dire. I wouldn't say it's dire.
No, not at all.
I won't understand
different
people.
Different strokes. So,
Anyway.
Directed by Alfonso Gomez Rejon, who did a film last year called The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Which
right.
The remake.
I'm guessing that's a remake.
It was sort of like
that was his first.
It was
film.
like a remake sequel, like sort of. I think it's like a meta sequel because the original's in this new one.
Oh right.
But yeah, I don't know much more about it.
But yeah, it's his second film. Obviously, this film is based off the book of Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews, who also wrote the screenplay for this. Compared to the other book, coming of age film that's been this, obviously Paper Towns was based on a book too. I think that this is probably wildly more successful in the fact that it's, importantly, most of all, it's superbly well written compared to Paper Towns, which, even though, like we said, it did try to subvert the cliches it was going for, it didn't always avoid them. Me and Earl does this a lot better and with a lot more sort of, I don't know, like sort of just inventiveness. I think the best way to
it feels like smarter humour.
Yeah, it feels a lot smarter than maybe what it was.
There's no creepy kid in Me and Earl.
I was looking forward to it. I mean, I was expecting this to be pretty good, but I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be on this level like of sort of nuance. Especially, I mean, it did remind me a lot of the time of Be Kind Rewind, like in some parts, which we'll get to. But so obviously based on the book, we've got a kid called Greg Gaines, played by Thomas Mann, who I think I've seen in
Project X.
I haven't seen, but he does have one of those sort of. He's stereotypically sort of awkward-looking, awkward-looking kid, so like, you could believe that he's part of that. He's a senior at Pittsburgh High School, and he's just drifting through life occasionally. Just he's sort of associating himself with all the different groups in the school. So you've got the goths and the outcasts and the cool kids and just everyone. He's not in any of those groups specifically. He just sort of drifts through, just making very little conversation, so he doesn't get himself penned down in any sort of group. However, one day that he finds out that a fellow student and former childhood friend of his called Rachel Kutchner, played by Olivia Cook, who I've also seen in a few things, but it's the visual recognition.
Earlier this year, she was in The Signal.
There you go. That's obviously
Ouija as well.
She was in Ouija, which we have no interest in seeing.
No, we're not going to say that. She's been diagnosed with leukemia, and he's forced by his overbearing parents, played by Nick Offerman brilliantly, and Connie Britton to. Britton.
I think it's just Britain.
Yeah, Britain.
Who was also in American Ultra this week.
Oh, there you go. So to go to Rachel's house and sort of help her in a time of need, because she does need it, because obviously leukemia is a horrible thing. None of them want the other's company, which is, I mean, they play that pretty well, and he manages to strike up a conversation about her pillow collection, which obviously endears her to him with his quirky personality, and they start getting along to obviously have their personality. Now, the strongest part of this film for me is that the combination between them two is believable, and most importantly, it isn't romantic. I mean, they do have these things in the film, like where it shows you what he thinks was going to happen, like what could have happened, like in a normal, like, I mean, they do quite a lot of meta stuff within the film. It is very meta in that, and the fact that they do have, it's like, if this was a normal sort of love story, this is what happened next, and it's like cuts to her like cuddling him, but then it cuts back to the reality, and it's like they're just sitting there like a platonic relationship, which is good to see, because a lot of coming-of-age films are always based around like the romance and the grown-up part of that, and while the grown-up part of this is the very important part, it's like the romance has nothing to do with it, essentially. Well, I mean, there is a side plot featuring his sort of high school crush going to prom and that, but that's not important compared to the relationship with him and Rachel, which is definitely the most important. I mean, to have such a relationship like that and not sort of go into the cliches and just have something that seems so relevant, and it seems so genuine, most importantly, like when it definitely sort of resonates with me especially. I mean, it was just, it's just, they're so beautifully acted, isn't it? I mean, I must say that it is very, very meta. Like I said before, Be Kind Rewind, they're obsessed with sort of, I haven't even mentioned Earl, especially played by Ronald Seiler too. I don't know if he's
Probably the second, not 2.
Yeah, the 2. Yeah.
Ronald Kryler 2.
But yeah, he's Greg's longtime friend and partner in crime, who he likes to make short films parodied and more popular films title. And much to Joe's chagrin, they go to a Criterion film store, which has all of the Criterion collection stuff that he desperately wants, and just panning across very slowly across all these DVDs that he can't have and we can't have. It's just cruel for a proper. I mean, even the posters are just.
It's fantastic. I think some screeners were giving out postcards of the posters.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sad we weren't at one of those screenings, but.
Yeah, but at Greg's reluctance, Earl convinces Greg to share the collection of short films with her, and that's how the relationship goes. Now, the main relationship between the three of them is very, very good, I thought, because it is just, like I said, it's so genuine. And Earl is sort of he takes no crap compared to Greg. I mean, you've got the Greg who's like the soft sort of, he doesn't know exactly what he wants to be, and then there's Earl that's like, nah, this is what we're doing. Like, he's been raised in a rough neighbourhood. They've got that sort of the dynamic of the rough neighbourhood and the sheltered house, and obviously Nick Offerman playing the father, who's sort of really quirky. I mean, it sort of reminds us of like a less abrasive version of Ron Swanson from Parks. Like,
it's just, he's got the sort of like doesn't care, but it's sort of so flowy and loose.
Ron Swanson, if he wasn't so American centric.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's definitely what struck me, and the fact that they have such a weird relationship. Obviously, I mean, like Offerman's character, like giving them all these exotic foods to eat, and that it's a really good sort of humorous side character. But the relationship they have is just played off, especially by the fantastic script. And I cannot sort of emphasize how good the script is. It's just really witty, and it's so charming and endearing, and that really goes hand in hand with the feel of the whole film, which is very sort of fantasy based. It's very sort of loose in the way that something like The Fallen was, but not in that kind of just like the coming of age style. That it is just sort of very sort of fantasy and fairy tale-esque, like you never know, like she's just like the dream girl, and like the typical coming of age, like what was it that you say, like the magical fairy,
the manic pixie
girl. She's sort of like a lesser version of one of those, she's like out of reach. Like she's just, I mean, obviously they haven't really had much of a relationship with our parents were forcing Greg to go and visit her, so it is very sort of, it's loose. But the fact that they go through sharing all these sort of relationships, and it's like, but obviously not like a platonic, like it's just a proper friendship, seeing all these sort of films that they've made, like My Dinner with Andre the Giant and the 400 Bros, and sort of Clockwork, Sockwork Orange.
Yeah.
It's like it is just remind me of Be Kind Rewind, but with teenagers, and it's just, that was really endearing to me because it shows that they are, they're quirky and creative, and that gets me, and this script is just fantastic, and some of the lines are probably, I mean, it is just wise. I think the generation and the target audience that it is going for, the people that will go to see this film will resonate with it, because it is very relatable in the fact that the characters are so down to earth, and so and a lot of things that will happen in real life for them, and it is just important that this is out there for them, because I think this is probably one of the films of the year, especially for me, just because of how strongly acted it is and how well written the script is, and just the visual style, especially. Obviously we have like in just all these like creative flourishes, like with them, there's a sort of an analogy where he's like feeling where Greg's feeling like a mouse being stepped on by an elephant, and that cuts off like a paper mache, like a wool creation, like mouse thing, where it's like just to show that, and it's just so creative and warm and funny that you just can't help but just to really be loved by it, feel love by it.
Yes. Joe?
Yeah, really enjoyed it. I mean, I saw the trailer not long ago, and it did look kind of like your normal indie quirky
festival.
That's
kind of.
Obviously, some people walked out and some people on Twitter were saying that, and that's what I kind of thought at the start from the opening narration. I thought, oh man, but nah, man, it completely 180 changed me around, because visually as well, like Ryan was saying, there's brilliant use of wide angle lenses at certain points. There were some instances where there might have been a kind of Wes Anderson influence, but it kind of, I don't know, it seemed like the director's own at times. But the biggest thing for me, obviously the story was the story, like I said, very emotional and very impactful. But for me, the biggest thing that got the biggest laughs out of everybody was obviously the film references. And if anybody's a film buff or a cinephile, then I highly recommend this film, because like you say, they do the short films
impression as well,
and the Death in Venice short film that they did, I'll not say what happens in it, but that had me on the verge of tears with laughter, and that's pretty much all I can say really. It's just a really funny film.
It is
funny, quirky, good quirky, original quirky, which I really liked it.
I mean, for me, it may be my new film of the year, just because it is incredibly funny. I mean, it's gut-bustingly funny, but obviously it's a dramatic film as well, and it gives you the slip a few times. it just seems so perfect, and the visual style that really got me. It is Wes Anderson like, because like the sort of centric camera, it always like sort of rotates like 90 degrees on a pivot. Yeah, I like all that, and when the camera sort of like flips on its side as well as he's walking down the corridors, I like that a lot. It's not like indie hipstery. It's just it's just really funny, and it is getting a wide release, so it's going to be out there for everybody to see.
I think it's the perfect combination of a trio of leads that work excellently well with each other, and a fantastically warm, smart and funny script that it doesn't pander to the audience and all, so it knows exactly what it's trying to be, and just the wide variety of creative flourishes that it has within it are also extremely strong, and I think that just melts together to make something really, really good. And I thought the ending especially was just really, really heartbreaking. Like
it's been a while since I've heard a whole audience laugh out loud as well.
Yeah,
that's been a long, long time. Since
it's been a while since I've heard an entire audience go and like like sniffles
and cry.
Like it got me.
A lot of emotions from the audience.
Yeah, I did say last week that I said last week I cried. It was more of a sort of, I could feel it in my throat. I had to fight back. It was difficult, but I loved it. Absolutely loved it. An audience screen unseen, you've done it again.
But beautifully heartbreaking, but also incredibly optimistic as well, which I love in a film.
And Criterion lent them all that stuff, and I get to look at it and remember
the torture,
and know that I will never ever be able to have any of that. Thank you.
It's true.
Yeah, but definitely, honestly, one of the films of the year.
I think it might be my new film of the year. I said at the start of the year Birdman wouldn't be beaten. I think it's been beaten twice now.